Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy Frady's Films. I made a video for you guys today kind of talking about spending on the JET program and how to actually save on the JET program. So this video is mostly about actually saving with JET, and it's mostly about what you can actually save and realistically what kind of tiers you can hit depending on your lifestyle, depending on how much you want to save, and depending on how much you want to spend. So a couple things. These numbers are very relative to my experience on JET. I'm a second year JET right now, and I'm living in Kobe, Japan, which is, I wouldn't say it's expensive or cheap. It's kind of in the middle. It's a proper city, but it's also not a Tokyo, but it's also not a middle of nowhere kind of Inaka placement. Also, I want to say that I'm definitely not a financial expert, and I want to just let you guys know that this is a spreadsheet I made in literally like 20 minutes at school today. So take that for what you will. Let's hop right into it. So I have a mock spreadsheet that I made today actually at school, funny enough. And yeah, this is basically a layout of what you're going to see on your paycheck monthly, as well as I've got three categories here. I've got like a not fun stuff, I've got a medium fun stuff, and then I have a fun stuff category. So with JET, for those of you that don't know, you get a maximum of 5 years. For me, I'm currently on my second year of JET. So here I have all of the values of the numbers you see. They're all labeled in yen, which of course is the Japanese currency. And yeah, let's jump right into it. So, like I said, I'm a second year JET. So currently per month, I'm getting about 300,000 yen, which let's go ahead and quickly look at the yen to USD breakdown. So right now, one US dollar is going for about 144 yen. Yikes. That's a pretty bad ratio for us Americans that want to join JET. So with that being said, a 300,000, oops, it's definitely not 300,000 US dollars I'm getting a month. That'd be nice. I'm getting roughly 2,000 US dollars. So, you know, nothing glamorous. I think it's definitely can let you have a good life and allow you to have a good life in Japan. As you can see here, I've kind of labeled it out. However, that value back home is not going to crack it for most of us, unfortunately. So let's just jump into it. So again, my value per month here is going to be 300,000 yen. And I want to go ahead and start talking right about starting costs. So when you come to Japan, there's a lot of startup costs that we would like to imagine aren't there. However, unfortunately, there are a lot of things that we need to kind of set up for our lives here once we get started. So my recommendation, and what a lot of the embassies back home in the US or Britain, again, this applies to wherever you're from. This is like the actual currency you get once you're in Japan, living in Japan, paying in yen, etc. So if you're not American watching this video, by all means, this information, please do what you want with it. Hopefully it's useful for you as well. So I brought about 3,000 US dollars when I came here. And funny enough, my embassy actually did offer some sort of like loan system or whatever. But I did have a few years of work under my belt before I actually got started on JET. So I was able to bring around 3,000 US dollars. And yeah, for me, you can kind of see behind me here, I've furnished my house for roughly $1,000. Now, this $1,000 is very subjective to how baller you want to be with your apartment and your placement and everything. And again, it also does depend on your placement. I've heard of some jets that were able to move into their apartments, and their predecessor, meaning the jet right before them that ended up moving on, literally sold them the apartment furnished and everything, and they got an amazing deal on it, etc. But unfortunately for me as a Kobe jet, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, my place was totally unfurnished. So I went to IKEA, spent around $1,000, but I did get myself a nice bed. I got a nice mattress. I got like a 40-inch TV here I bought. The fridge, the air conditioner, stove, some of the like kitchen stuff did come with the apartment, so I was lucky to get all that. But the big things that I bought was the TV, a couple like various furniture pieces from Amazon, like this computer desk I'm using here, the chair I'm sitting in. The couch was from IKEA, as well as like this glass countertop table back here. So roughly $1,000 will get you pretty much everything you need, I would say, as long as you're not buying anything insane. If you're really just trying to go minimal at first, $1,000 is a very good estimate to kind of like get you set up, depending on where you live. But I think $1,000 can roughly figure it out for most people, unless you're placed in, Shibuya or like the most expensive parts of Japan or Tokyo or what have you. So that aside, the first month's rent for me was halved. So normally, as a starting jet, you're going to be around the 280,000 yen per month mark. So when you hit that second year, it is like a very minimal bump per month as to what you're actually getting. But my first month's rent was actually halved because the Board of Education is trying to cover funds if you just completely dipped out of Japan. They need some money to make sure they can pay bills in case you like weren't going to stick around. They also want to make sure they have like a security deposit, various normal things that worldwide apartments kind of like have in general. So keep that in mind. That's why I think it's better just to bring more than you might think you need. Now again, you get here and bring $500 to $1,000? Absolutely. But with that being said, for me, I felt comfort knowing that if SHIT hit the fan, I did have that backup to where I could, kind of keep myself going in case the job was crazy or it was a big scam or something, which of course it's not. But I felt comfortable bringing this amount, and I would recommend something in this neighborhood. Again, I didn't spend all of it, but it did give me that comfort to kind of like get a head start on things. So with that being said, let's move along to the not fun stuff category here. So the not fun stuff, of course, is going to be your rent, your taxes and insurance, electrical bills, water bills, all sorts of those kind of things that are going to be taken out of your paycheck before you ever even see that money. So even though it is a 300,000 yen per month kind of thing, what I really see is roughly 230,000 yen before I actually get going on my month's expenses and things like that. So my rent here in Kobe I have a nice living room. I think what they would categorize it would be a 1 LDK, which again is a bathroom, a shower, a living room space, some sort of a kitchenette, but it's like a nice sink. It has 2 burners on the stove, no oven. Like I said, rent is included as like a monthly utility. And then I do have a tatami bedroom. My rent here is about 40,500 yen per month, which if we come over here and take a look at what that actually comes out to, it's pretty good. It's like 280, 300 US dollars, which I'm in Kobe, but the area of Kobe that I'm in is more of a countryside ward of the city. So, if I want to go downtown and go see some friends and have some drinks or go have a lunch or whatever, I'm definitely paying, not much, but I definitely have to take a bus, to take a train, to get to the downtown, to walk, to get to the restaurant. So that's a little inconvenient. So depending on your, how much you hold value to convenience of where you're living, I think that anywhere from this amount all the way up to even 100,000 yen, if you're living in downtown Tokyo and you just happen to get placed there, this is totally based on my personal experience here. I just want to bring to light that this rent value can vary greatly depending on your placement. Some people don't pay rent. I know jets that don't even have a rent payment whatsoever. And for them, this 40,000 is like, wow, that I pocket that every month. So keep in mind, this rent is extremely subjective to your placement and it could be greater, it could be less. That's enough said about that. So on top of that, for me, my taxes and insurance, it does come around to 30,000 yen. This can get very granular, just like if you were, paying taxes and whatever in the U.S., that would come out of your paycheck as well. And of course, you file every year and what have you. But this, for me, is roughly in this range. Don't hold me to this number. Again, I kind of did this on a whim. I haven't really double checked up on all my paperwork. However, you can expect there to always be taxes coming out of your paycheck no matter where you live in the world. So with that being said, 30,000 yen, is what it is. It's taxes. Nobody likes it. Just deal with it. That's how it goes. Electrical. This one is also extremely subjective. So for me, I have one air conditioning unit, which is wall mounted right here. And this unit, I've paid as little as $3,000 per month because it's fall, it's perfect weather. I've got the windows open and I'm literally not running it at all. and the only thing I pay for is when I cook on my gas stove for like dinner or something like that. So I've had it as low as 3,000, but then I've had it as high as literally 15,000 yen, which is pushing like $100 to, you know, cool off a tiny space. Not that tiny, but you know, small enough to where it's like $100. Yikes, that's pretty expensive. And Japan's had a lot of things going on recently where they've been even raising more and more when it comes to that like electric bill. So this one is very dependent as well. So be mindful here of this electric bill. And then water is thankfully not bad. It's 2,500 yen, which comes like 20 bucks, something in there. So anyway, based on how I've kind of configured this, it's roughly 230,000 yen as a gross payment of what I'm at, or not gross, but like after all of your stuff is taken out, I guess it's a net payment rather. So ignore this gross payment, but like a net payment. So let's move on to, now we have our money. So let's go ahead and move on to our medium fund stuff, which I've kind of placed this as things that you're going to pay for each month that aren't necessarily glorious, but you kind of start getting your say in this about how well you want to live and how, you know, colosso you want to be with your like payments and your expenditure and what have you. So groceries here, the first three, I have kind of three brackets here. So for, let's say you're someone that's like very mindful of cooking and you're like super saver, you're like min-maxing your money at Costco weekly, you're freezing, you know, like 10 chicken breasts every 2 weeks or what, like you're extreme. I'm gonna say at that rate, you're probably gonna be spending 5,000 to 6,000 yen per week. Now, of course, if you're one of those people that appears on like, you know, documentaries on like popular television programs and stuff where they're like, wow, look at this crazy ass dude that's spending, you know, like $10 a week or whatever. Like, okay, you do you, man, then you're the exception. However, I'll say if you're like generally really going hard and really trying to like put away your money and you're like, I'm not going out, I'm not, every night I'm cooking, every day I'm making, you know, big servings of rice and chicken and whatever, and like I'm eating leftovers, whatever. This 5,000 to 6,000 yen per week is going to get you a substantial amount of food that you're going to be able to, like I said, you're not going to be like super luxury. You're going to be like eating pretty basic meals. You know, probably some of the starting cost here is going to be sauces that you bought when you first moved here, spices, things like that. So you're going to have all your stuff set up, and then you're going to be week after week like spending this 5,000 to 6,000 yen. Which again, you're not buying snacks, you're not buying beer, you're not buying like sweets hardly. You're buying in bulk. You're smart shopping. You're like you're being cheap basically. So that's like the mostly only cooking category here. Here I have the cooking sum, which I think this is much more realistic for most people. Again, we all come here to Japan to enjoy some amount of the lifestyle of going out to eat. We all want to eat that like fire ramen that we all see. We all want to eat like the good ass gyoza. I mean, there's just, you know, this is a cuisine capital of the world, right? So, of course, I think most people are going to kind of fall in this category, more of the like cooking some and eating out some. I have this labeled as 8,000 to 11,000 yen per week. So, with that being said, you know, could you tweak these numbers? Sure. If you live on frickin' Awaji Island and, you know, out here in the middle of Hyogo or whatever, like maybe you have like some deal with some guy that's cooking there and you're getting like stupid deals eaten out at the izakayas and people are like paying for you because they love seeing the foreigner there and whatever. Can this number be significantly cheaper? Yes. But can this number also be significantly more? Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's kind of where we come down to the never cooking category, which this is when you're literally like, screw it, I'm not cooking, I'm not doing it, I want to go eat out every night. I have estimated this at 11,000 to 20,000 yen per week. Now, again, these numbers can vary, depends on where you live. I'm not a financial expert, I'm not giving any financial advice here. Again, I'm calculating this based on my various weeks I've had where some weeks I'm like, I'm going out, screw it, I'm going to go play, I'm going to go do my thing. And, you know, meet with friends, have a big dinner at like 4 or 5 times a week, just like totally going for it. So I would say that kind of falls in this category here, 11 to 20,000 yen per week. So even then, I mean, think about these conversion rates with the US dollar. I mean, 20,000 yen at like an absolute utmost. You know, that's spending $138 a week on groceries. That's like, still, I'm gonna go ahead and say this. I am a very like conservative person overall when it comes to money and living. This is totally like about living alone. So, for me, this is something that's like, oh, that might be a big week. But for some people, that may be like, dude, I spend 20,000 yen like without blinking an eye every day. And if that's you, I mean, that's okay. And we'll kind of get to that in the savings area. But, these are kind of like hardcore grocery tiers, I would say. So, again, 5 to 6,000 is like very extremist. 11 to 20,000 for me is kind of higher end, but it's not extreme by any means. Some people spend this like it's nothing. So, you have to figure yourself out on that and what you think is good. So coming down here to school lunch, for me in Kobe, school lunch is 260 yen per lunch. So one semester, which is eating, you're working Monday to Friday, 15,000 yen for about 3 to 4 months worth of eating school lunch daily, which I'm kind of surprised. Well, I'm not surprised, but I kind of wish that teachers had free lunch, just considering all the stuff teachers do in Japan and in Kobe and whatever. But 15,000 yen for 3 to 4 months, like $100 for 3 4 months for lunch, like okay, whatever, like take it. Moving on, internet and phone. So internet for me, I am contracted with JCOM, which by no means not sponsored, but JCOM for me is around 5,000 yen per month, which I think is a very, very reasonable deal. There's all kinds of tiers to that as well. I definitely have the lowest internet package, and I got in on some sort of like holiday move-in special thing. So I got a pretty decent deal on this. So I'm kind of grandfathered into this 5,000 yen price. And then after that, my SIM is with Rakuten, which is 3,000 yen per month, and I have unlimited data there. So again, take this for what you will. This is going to vary a lot for people. This is totally based on my experience with Kobe, and it's mostly just for like critical thinking and fun things to think about. Now let's get to what we want to talk about: fun stuff and savings, right? So let's just talk about a super typical day out. This is like a super basic typical day out. Like let's say it's Saturday and you wanna ball a little bit, right? You wanna go out, you wanna ball a little bit. Which now that I look at this number down here, 4 to 13,000 yen, it kind of like doesn't align with any of this. So I would say with this grocery list here, this is gonna be like you're like grinding, like you're trying to save, I would say. So when you see these three here, mostly cooking some, never cooking, keep in mind these are going to be like for those hardcore savers. So let's come down here to the typical day out. I'd say in the morning, which keep in mind this doesn't involve transportation. Fortunately for Kobe Jets, our transportation is actually reimbursed. So only for like school stuff though. So like in the morning when I go to my school, I have to take a bus and a train. And then when I come back, I take a bus and a train. Or I take a train and a bus. But anyway, that is reimbursed over time. So I don't have that calced in here. But some of you might have a car. Some of you might not have your reimbursement or your transportation reimbursement. So keep that in mind as well. But this is totally for like a super typical day out. If you go to Sannomiya, which is downtown Kobe, go to it like if you gotta go, you're on the way, you're kind of like at the train station waiting, waiting for your friend for an hour or something. You might want to get something from a cafe. I'd say if you get like a croissant and like a black coffee or like a cafe latte or something, it's gonna be like 800 yen, which is very reasonable. Lunch, I would say this is also on the like cheaper end, 900 to 1500 yen. Just depends what you eat. I mean, if you're gonna go have sushi for lunch, you're not paying that. You're gonna pay a lot more. But if you want to go to Sukiya, which is like a gyudon place, you're gonna pay this or even like less. So totally depends on you. I just kind of like threw this in there just to kind of let us think about that. After lunch activity. Let's say you go and shop around a little bit, you find something that you're like, oh, I need that for my house. You buy a new kitchen knife, you buy a new, a little something. I just popped a 1,200 yen value on this. Again, subjective. I mean, if you go buy a new watch, it ain't gonna be that price. But if you just go buy some little like daily thing you might end up using at your house, I just threw it on there. Dinner. I think this dinner value is again modest but also respectable. 12 to 1,800 yen. If you go to like a more local place like a izakaya and just get a few dishes with a friend, maybe split it, this is reasonable. And then after dinner drinks, of course, like 600, 2,500 yen. If you have a beer, it's like 600 yen. If you have like 3 or 4 drinks, 2,500 yen. Of course, if you go to the convenience store, these prices are going to be a lot less. If you go to like a higher end restaurant, I mean, you guys can use common sense just like anywhere else in the world. So I kind of have this totaled anywhere from 4,000 yen to 13,000 yen. Okay, so this is kind of like a typical day out, and again, it doesn't align necessarily with the grocery spending, so this is just like a kind of off one if you're going to go have fun and just like kind of mess around. So, all right, let's take a look at our savings column here. So this is, again, this video is mostly meant for those of us that are like trying to save money on Jet. So I have 5 categories here. I have my extremist category, which that is if you are like penny pinching to the max. Remember, I said your net pay. I don't know why I have gross here. That's just bothering me. I'm just going to change this really quick. Let's say your net comes out to 230,000 yen, right? Let's say your net comes out to 230,000 yen, and you are just like staying at home cooking. You never go out. All you do is like you go to school, you come back, you cook your, optimized Costco meals, and you're freaking playing PC or something free, right? Your extremist values are going to be 180,000 to 150,000 yen per month, okay? So, this is like, you are like no-lifing Japan, basically. You're not going out, you're staying in, you are seeing the same sites daily. I mean, it's almost unreasonable for most of us. Like, let's be real. This is going to be like your 1 to 2% like hardcore finance nerds that are like grinding Jet for money, which doesn't make sense because Jet's really not about that. Anyway, so these next tiers are a lot more realistic. I have hard committed here, which is 150,000 to 120,000. This is something that I think is, it's still pretty intense. Like, this is still an intense budgeting system here, an intense budgeting schedule. To be saving 150,000 to 120,000 yen a month is pretty intense budgeting. You got to be pretty committed to that. So take these as you will. These top 2 are pretty hardcore. Realistic. Now this is where you start actually breaking into like the I want to have 1,000,000 yen. I want to save 1,000,000 yen in a year, whatever, right? This is where you start getting to that category, realistic, right here. So realistic, 120,000 is still kind of on that, like I'm on the cheaper side. I'm going out maybe once a month, twice a month, very minimal. I don't have any hobbies, etc. 90,000 I think is where you actually kind of get to that value of like, okay, I'm a saver at heart, but I understand where I'm at. I'm understanding, what I'm doing here, etc. I want to enjoy Japan, but I want to save. I think this 90,000 mark is a very fair benchmark for those that are like save conscious, but they also want to have fun in Japan. And then next category is living it up, 90,000 to 50,000 savings. You're doing Jet program the way Jet program was made to be done, basically. You make your money, but you work hard, you play hard kind of thing. That's kind of where this falls in. So you're going to school, you're coming home, sometimes you're cooking, you're probably going to the grocery store maybe 3 times a week, and then you're just like, screw it, I don't want to cook. You're maybe ordering something on, or maybe like delivery, or maybe you're like going out to like a local ramen place by your house or what have you. So I would say most people that are like really coming on to Jet and they're not like heavy focused on saving are definitely going to be in this living it up and final tier here. Final tier here is colosso living. So this is what I like to call living colosso living. So with that being said, 50,000 to 0 savings per month. Depending on your age, depending on where you are, your background, this might just realistically be you. You might just say, hey, I'm here for a year and I've done a great job of working my previous job. I've stashed a ton in the bank. I've got good investments back home. I'm here to enjoy Japan, and I don't need to be these top 4 tiers. I'm here to have a good time, and I'm here to make memories. And if that's you, like 100%, like there's a lot of value in that. Again, this video is more geared towards people that are like trying to save on Jet and are like more financially like minded when it comes to budgeting and things like that. So this 50,000 to 0 yen, I mean, I would say for me personally, I'm not an absent-minded person when it comes to spending. If let's say I spend 5,000 yen. I don't want to just immediately go spend another 5,000 yen and then just go spend another like for me, if I spend 5,000 yen, I'm like, okay, I spent 5,000 yen on that. That's fine, whatever. I enjoyed it. It's good. I can justify it. But that's kind of like I'll start to put like a stopper on that and be like, okay, I don't want to spend like 5,000 yen 3 times a day. Like that's just not me. People do that. And you definitely can. Like I said, making 230,000 net, like you can afford to play around a little bit with your salary, And Jet is cheap. Jet is like the salary is pretty cheap when you actually convert it back to the Western standard of like the US dollar and pounds and euros and what have you. But if you're living in Japan and you're living pretty modestly, like in a modest place, and for me, I don't have a car, which is a big plus. I think that, these 2 categories down here are totally fine, and you will have a great time on Jet. I think if you have this extremist kind of category, you're going to be really limiting yourself to what Japan has to offer. However, if you're just someone that is like a just hard geared finance like kind of person, like you can save that here. You might be able to save that back home in your $50,000 to $60,000 job, but here these are all doable. It just really depends. That's the whole thing about jet programs. It's very subjective about where you live, what kind of lifestyle you have, as well as like, do you need a car? What is your utility situation look like? What's your rent situation look like? The golden word is ESID, right? Every situation is different. So with that being said, I think these are kind of the 5 categories that we can all look at here to see how much we can save when we're on jet. So with that being said, if you guys have any questions about anything I've written here, again, I wrote this up like in 20 minutes at school today, so I know there's a lot of it that for some of you might be like, that's completely unreasonable, or wow, that's overshooting, or what have you. Feel free to comment, let me know your thoughts, and yeah, this is just like, it's not even budgeting really, it's just kind of like a sample spreadsheet to kind of give you an idea of things that I have seen in my time here and things that I've heard of from other people. So yeah, if you're a jet and you watch this video, if you have, let me know what you kind of spend too, because I'd like to know. And for those of you that are hoping to get on jet, good luck, and yeah, hope you can kind of learn something from this video here.